Where should I start?
Wow. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Matt. I've always been keen to you in my own special way. I got my way of, bonding with people and whatnot. And wow, where to start? It really starts back in my upbringing. I grew up in Oakland, California, and really impoverished area. My mom did the best she could. And my dad is an addict. And, sometimes he gets to me and I think about he's still, he's been clean for about 60 days now. But my whole adulthood through my childhood, it's really interesting, being in East Oakland, extreme violence, family members being murdered, seeing violence at a granular level, at a very just point blank level between family members. And I just kind of kept to myself. And, I was always to myself. I was always a loner, and I just never felt like I was enough. And, in 99, I decided that, I needed to get out of Oakland or I was just going to be a product of these streets. And so I joined the military, and, I was still lost. I was just going through the motions, and, that old adage that jiu-jitsu changed my life really did change my life. I was just going from job to job, being depressed. I'd come back from Iraq and I knew something wasn't right. And I just kept getting fired from jobs and quitting jobs. And then I started resorting to drugs and alcohol. And then in 2009, I found this karate jiu-jitsu dojo in Midland, Texas. And my first professor, Juan Perez, I walked in, I was fat, depressed, and alcoholic and experimenting with a lot of drugs. And I walked in there and I thought I was going to get in shape. And I was like, I'm going to do karate. Right. And so I go in there and they're doing jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, it's not like kids jiu-jitsu. Like, hi, I'm Professor, and I'm here to help you. There's guys sweating and grunting and guys getting thrown and my 5'7" at 5'7", 240, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna do an about face and get out of here. And so Professor Juan was like, hey, big man, what you doing? And I was like, hey, I was here for karate. And he had a few choice words about karate. And I'm like, and it's like a karate dojo. It's traditional karate dojo, but it's got jiu-jitsu mats, right? Okay. But some guys are no shirt on, some guys got a gi on. It's like an old
school chaos.
Old school chaos, old school chaos movies, kind of like the movie Warrior. It's dingy, And so I was like, oh, I don't have a gi. And out of the trajectory of my right, I see a white gi get thrown into my face.
Now you do.
By Richard Alvarado.
My gosh.
Yeah, Richard is a black belt under one. He was 60. He was in his 60s. And he was a brown belt. Yeah. And I always thought.
Those old grizzly brown belts, dude.
Oh my God. I was like, and he was a lawyer. So I was like, he could kill me and get acquitted all at once. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm scared of him. I'm scared of him,
Yeah.
And I go out there and I'm huffing and puffing and I'm thinking, okay, the timer goes off. And it's buzz, and it's one of those old school timers. So it's got the tick, 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 buzz. And so I was like, well, how many minutes are we going? You guys going 3? And they're 10. So my rounds at Juan Perez's were always 10. So henceforth, which kind of built me in this jiu-jitsu toughness that I have and been known in the community because of him. In this little small gym, and I may have not been the most technical there, but I did build that grit in that gym. And it kind of helped me along in my jiu-jitsu journey.
Yep, for sure. And so then from, how long were you with Professor Juan?
I was with him 2009 all the way until around 2011, 2012.
Okay. Is that when you moved out this way?
Yes.
Okay.
So I moved out here. I was at a real downward spiral. I kind of just had a moment of insanity. I was doing MMA and I was still drinking and doing drugs, and I had 2 little girls as a single parent, and I kind of lost everything. I lost my job. I couldn't afford my rent. The lights were off in my house, and I had these girls that were 4 and 5 at the time, and I was like, now I got to get out of Midland, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have anything, and so a friend of mine and her family gave me some money to get on a Greyhound bus, and I got on a Greyhound bus, and I came to Oceanside, where my daughter Isabel, her mother, I stayed with her mother's mother.
Okay.
Yeah, in a mobile home, and it kind of changed my life, and so I just started all over again. Purple belt, hungry. I'm like, man, I got these fight dreams. I'm going to do this, and kind of went a different trajectory. I started working I started being a personal trainer, and there was a lady by the name of Nancy Soroyan, and she was like, hey, you're doing these kind of boot camp fitness classes. We need an instructor at this place called Excel Jiu-Jitsu. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just go over there, and I'll go over there and teach the class. And she told me how much it was, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I need the money.
Yep.
And I was doing no-gi when I first got here. I was training at a place called Pilot Training Center, which is no longer around. And I was training under the 10th Planet moniker with Gio Martinez and Boogie, and they were helping me with my no-gi, and it was all no-gi. And I was like, cool training. I get to teach people boxing, because a lot of people don't know that my background's boxing.
Okay.
And I was doing jiu-jitsu. It helped me stay in the jiu-jitsu, you know. And anyways, to make a long story short, I go to Excel, and I'm teaching the classes, and I really was smitten to a couple people. Number one was Lauren Garcia, who's one of Michio's black belts. I've known her since she was 15, 16 years old. And a couple other people that were there, like Ray Sloan and Bubba and Connor that was there. And we just trained hard. And one day Professor Michio was teaching. And I just always I would go spar with him, and I never did the jiu-jitsu class. And one day I just got on the mats. And this was before Michio's hair was gray. Man, Michio's phenomenal. This was before the hip surgery and, the injuries and whatnot. And when he was training to become, when he won worlds, I was around. And I was... so
it was Pitbull Michio time.
Yeah, it was Pitbull Michio.
Yeah.
Like, his choke is nasty. Like I used to tell the guys, I said, you guys don't even know how talented that man is and how much of a wealth of knowledge Michio is. And his squeeze is just, it's different when you're like squeezing in practice in comparison when you're rolling with him, when he shows
when he's training for worlds.
Yes. And
that's a different squeeze.
It's a different squeeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt it a lot. And I am so thankful, because I learned my head and arm choke from Michio, and I always give him credit. In his passing. So I am a product of Michio Grubbs, though. We kind of parted ways. I'm always a product of him, and I always give him the glory.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. And so then from Oakland, with the, your mom doing as best as she absolutely could, was your dad present, out of the picture? Would he pop in every once in a while, or was he one of those he was there but not present type dads, or what was that relationship like?
And it was interesting. It was an interesting relationship, because I always yearned to have that relationship with him. And I knew what was going on. My mom would let me go and hang out with him. Okay. And but he would leave me, with my grandmother, and I knew exactly where he was at. He would be at the local crack house, And to make a long story short, sometimes I wish he wasn't around, because I was exposed to a lot, pulling him out of a crack house,
How old were you when that happened?
First time I was 9. I was 9 years old. My grandmother, God rest her soul, she was an alcoholic. And so it's like pretty much going from the fire pit to the fire, he would leave and do his thing, and I would be in there, and she'd be drinking, and she'd be extremely like violent, you know, throwing stuff at the wall. Never physical at me, but you know, yelling and
So like she would have those angry outbursts, but they would never be directed specifically at you. She would throw shit at the wall and whatnot.
Yeah.
But still,
I'm still around it.
That's still terrifying.
You're right. For some reason, I don't know. She would curse out everybody else except me. I don't know. There was something, and I remember, you know, when she passed away in 2008, you know, that she always just had a soft spot for me because my mom, with her being a single mom, she did everything she could. She worked 2 jobs. I remember times the power was out. I remember times I remember times the power was out. I remember times that I knew my mom didn't have much money. And I knew that we didn't have much in the cupboards. But I knew that she made a sacrifice to do it. So it really humbled me. I never was that bratty kid like, oh, mama, we never got nothing, you know. I just always knew. And then I got the luxury to, we all cohabitated with my grandparents towards the end of my childhood. And I would have to say that's like the first real like male role model I had, my grandfather, you know.
what was he like?
Man, Wilbur Spencer, man. He was.
Ooh, that's a name.
This was Spencer. Oh man, he had a death stare, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. He was
like that Samuel L. Jackson meme.
Yes.
Where he's like,
yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And my mom's got it too. Like, she looks just like him. And yeah, but he was the one that really like. We used to watch. He used to open my mind to things. Though he only had a high school education, and we used to watch National Geographic. We used to watch the History Channel. We used to watch sports, of course, right? But we watched a lot of sports history and civil rights, and he kind of gave me an identity and always enforced me, hey, grand man, you're smarter than this. Like, look, you know, look how African Americans have fought through. You have an opportunity. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, all I see is this. All I see is that if I go 2 blocks down the road, that there's prostitutes on the street. And if I go the other direction, if I go towards Bancroft, then I know that there's the dope boys out there. And, you know, so
in your mind, you're looking at it like, you're telling me there's opportunities, and the opportunities I'm seeing I don't like.
Yeah, and if there's these opportunities, then why did these people choose these routes?
Yeah.
At my 18-year-old, at my 16, 17, 18-year-old mind, I'm like, if they have these opportunities and they know what the dangers are, then why did they choose this life?
No, that's a good question.
And I was like, I don't believe it, you know? But I knew I was different. I knew. I was like, I was going to college. I was going to a local community college and with no direction. Took women's studies because I liked this girl, you know. I was like, I like women.
I mean,
I like women, so I did women's studies. Yeah, why not?
I want to learn about women.
I'm gonna learn about women.
Nope.
Exactly. No, it was like the total opposite.
Yeah.
It was like men bashing. And Professor Sue, she was like the prototypical feminist, like hairy arms, burning bras, you know, all that. And I was like the only dude in there, and I'm like, okay, I think I can get a C in this class. And I got a C in that class.
Nice. So then your grandfather, he kind of had this would you consider it like a push, or like he's trying to like push you to help you see yourself for how he sees you, or pulling you to how he sees you?
I think it was a push.
Yeah.
I really do. Now that I look, and now I understand it at 44, you know, as I look back, I was like, what? Why do you keep talking about this? Like, why? You know, and he had emphysema. He had emphysema and was still smoking to his dying day.
Old school generation.
Yeah,
man.
old school. Oxygen tank and everything. And
oh man.
Hey Grant. Because my mom used to smoke, right?
Okay.
And so, funny story. He didn't have any cigarettes.
Uh-oh.
So my mom would try to keep cigarettes from him. And so she had an ashtray in her room. You know, this is like the 90s, so everybody smoked everywhere, you know? And he's like, "For me, mama." And I was like, "You don't need to do, boy, just go do it." And I was like, "All right," I had to run over and get him. And he over there smoking to his dying day, man.
Oh my gosh.
But I learned so much from that man. And you realize how much knowledge you had and how much knowledge I was blessed with as we grow.
Yeah. You don't really recognize it in the moment, but those little seeds kind of start popping up, 40 years later.
Yeah.
And you're like, and a lot of times we forget who planted that seed, where that seed came from, but then all of a sudden it becomes a part of us.
Yeah.
What is something that you remember, your grandpa instilling in you? I mean, the pursuit of knowledge was, he's trying to show you things that are educational, not necessarily entertaining.
Right.
Trying to get you in stuff that engages your mind, engages your critical thinking.
Yes.
An understanding of history.
Yeah.
So that way you can understand and better pursue your future.
Right.
What's something that looking back now, with the things that he was dripping into your life in that time, is there anything that maybe you recognize doing with your kids that your grandpa did, or what comes to mind for that?
I think he was trying to subliminally tell me that I was enough. I really think that he knew the environment that we lived in, that a lot of people never thought that they could get out or be enough to grow. They weren't worthy of growing, that you were, as a black man in Oakland, that you were supposed to just breathe, be a knuckle dragger. I had a lot of resistance, in growing up and wanting to do stuff. I always was enamored. I know you told me to come here casual. This is my casual. Like, a lot of times you don't see me in a gi, but I wear like a blazer and stuff. And it's a reminder to me that I'm enough, not to impress anybody. At a time when I was depressed and I didn't even want to bathe, or I didn't want to brush my teeth, or, this suit is a reminder that or this blazer or whatever I wear is a reminder that you can change. You can grow. That gi, when I put it on, you can grow. Because I remember as a kid, I remember, I loved basketball. So we would go to every park and play. And in Oakland, in Chinatown, there's this one rec center. That's where back in the day, that's where all the ballers used to go play at.
Okay.
But in Chinatown, obviously, right? There's all these brothers in here in Chinatown, right? But in the park, there's these people, I remember, they were doing Tai Chi. And then there was another section, and they were doing karate or Taekwondo or something. They were throwing kicks, and I was like, and the respect and the honor, I always liked it, and with my grandfather, we would watch stuff about the samurai. We would watch documentaries on PBS. I'm showing my age now, right? But PBS, and he's like, "Hey, grandman, come on, let's go. Let's watch this," And we watched about the samurai, and I started getting enamored with the samurai subtly.
Man, so was the ceiling that was placed on you with growing up in Oakland, the area of Oakland you grew up in, being a black man, the time in was this mid-90s or so?
Mid to late 90s, yeah.
Mid late 90s. That was a different time in Oakland.
Yeah.
Was it a external putting you down, or was it an internal heart and mind thing keeping you from that feeling of you can get out of here? Or was it a combination of both?
I think it was a combination of both, because I used to remember I've always loved numbers. I've always loved business. I've always been enamored with business, stocks, etc. And I remember in high school saying, "You know what? I'm going to get into finance. I'm going to work at a bank." And I remember people used to laugh at me. So I was like, well, crap. I guess I can't tell him. I guess I'm not supposed to do that.
Did that?
That's a white man's position.
Ooh, did that kind of? So these are like peers in school. Other black guys, like race white people as well, probably all kind of reinforcing the that lie and struggle that's in your own mind of like, I can get out of here, I am worth it, I am good enough, I can change. And they're like, no, almost like with that, forgive me for how this comes out, but like, no, boy, that's not how things work.
Right.
Like almost like that, putting that boot on the back of your head saying, no, like, you stay in your place. And you're like, but there's this fight in you of like, so that conflict, I can imagine at that age, it probably came with anger,
Right.
Some resentment, that fear, that maybe that heartbrokenness, that maybe that lie in your head is correct. And so so you're in that time, the decision became hide and don't share dreams. Protect? Is that what came out of that?
I think, but my way of protection was just not doing anything. There's no action. You know, I had
because if you don't try, you can't fail.
Exactly.
Oh shit.
Like, I didn't have confidence. I had, you know, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and she's like, gosh, I look at all these medals and all these things, and, you know, that you have, you know, your black belt and how you're respected amongst your peers everywhere we go and all this. And I said, you know what, still there's that little afraid boy still on the inside sometimes, even at black belt. And it took me a while to build this confidence. You know, it took a while to be Jamar Coleman, Lions Only, the guy. It took a long time. It took a personal inventory. And it took me years of digging deep because I was in a real deep struggle. I mean, this story got really worse after the military. It started getting into drug use and alcoholism and womanizing.
And what was looking back at that, and with your digging deep, I love that, because you're, you know, when you're in that deep struggle, which means you got to dig deep. And I think too many times people dig just enough to feel like they've accomplished something, and then they stop digging. And then those things that never fully got rooted up, they start growing again. Yeah. And so post-military career, what was it that pulled you into that lifestyle? Was it that those lies in your head and heart that kept coming back? Was it what was it that drove you to that life?
Man, it is. I think it's guilt. You know, I was
About
masking.
what?
Yeah, glad you brought that up. So in my 20s, I was a very like angry person.
Okay.
I was the angry black man, if you will, right? And I was just super angry. I let my anger get the best of me in a lot of ways, you know, fighting, just burning relationships, you name it. And I'm hurting a lot of people. And I carried that. Even at that young age, I carried it. I didn't know I was carrying it fully. And I started masking it. So I was like, well, I'm just a piece of crap that I'm never going to amount to anything because I've hurt all these people. And I didn't have that relationship with God in the sense that I didn't believe that God loved me. I said, if you love me so much, then why am I suffering so much? Why am I so miserable? Why did I attempt to take my life in 2006? That was the first time. And why am I doing all these things? You know, I'm just going down this road, you know, and I just never felt like I was enough.
Why do you think that you adopted or accepted the persona of the angry black man? Was it forced on you? Was it a role you felt like you had to play? Was it you were trying to protect yourself from? Because I can imagine with grandma, with dad, you saw a pattern of this is how you react and respond to the world around you. And as that little boy, the fear of that being directed at you, I can imagine that it made you want to don't make a scene, don't attract attention, don't pursue greatness, because greatness equals attention.
Yeah.
And so everything was kind of hidden, masked, restrained, suppressed. And do you think that anger came out of maybe that greatness being so frustrated that it needed to come out, and the only way you knew to allow it out was through the anger and through the rage? Or was that anger a way of protecting yourself from getting hurt by people who are trying to love you or get the best out of you?
Man, I'm glad you brought that up. I think it goes towards more of a defense mechanism, and what my then ideology on what a man was supposed to be. In my upbringing, when I think about the Coleman side, is that I think about, I never had a Coleman that was rational. Right? Everything was irrational and
extreme,
right? Like, oh, you owe me $5, we got to go fight, right?
Yeah.
Or you disrespected me, we got to go fight, or I can't let nobody disrespect me. If I do, it's kill or be killed. It's like my identity was my toughness as a man. And I realized at 44 that doesn't make you a man. That doesn't make you, that strength isn't always about enforcing might, but it's also the ability to yield and to be the ability to yield and stop and try to understand the situation before we move forward.
Dude, that's a big one. My dad is almost 75. He was born 48. I can't do the math on that. Vietnam veteran. Saw and did some wild stuff. I don't even fully know and understand it. But with that comes the PTSD stuff, the drinking, the angry outbursts and stuff that I grew up with. And we have this impression of masculinity, what it means to be a man. And we have the positive sides, of like, you provide, you're present, like there's positive sides of it. But then we also start learning these bad habits as well of like, hey, when we're supposed to fly off the handle and lose our shit at the most minor inconvenience.
Right.
Because we have to assert dominance. And to have that quiet strength of stopping, that is a very beautiful lesson to learn. And I know because of what I've experienced and learned, which is nowhere near as traumatic and influential as your upbringing. I know that was really hard work to get to that point. And so I need to recognize that and celebrate that, because that is a win that is going to affect generations.
Right.
That's not just going to influence you in your marriage. That's going to affect your kids in a very beautiful, positive way, that a cycle could have continued. Pain and hurt and anger could have continued.
Yeah.
And you broke that.
Yeah.
You fucking broke that.
Yeah.
And that is huge.
Thanks, man.
That is huge.
I appreciate it.
Your children are going to hear things that you wanted to hear when you were a kid. They're going to feel things that you wanted to feel when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And no one can take that from you.
That's right.
That is, that's absolutely beautiful.
Thanks, man. All right. That was, I was fighting. I was thinking strength is just enforcing. And I got to say, Michio had to help me a lot with that. Even when he was kicking my ass back in 2012 and 13.
He does it in such a nice way.
He does it in such a nice way, right? Professor, you're doing really good. I'm like, what do you mean I'm doing good?
As you're dying and
as I'm like
breathing out,
or I'm like near the point of death, I'm like, Thanks, Professor. You know, I love him. I love him dearly, and I learned a lot from him. And he helped me. He helped me in that journey. He helped me a lot, you know, and I just really started taking that in. And other instructors, Baird Yoshida, I was at the arena for years, so I got to be under a world champion and just see how he carried himself.
Yeah.
In comparison to some of the other guys I've seen in the community. I've been training for, going almost 16 years, and I've seen a lot of loudmouth black belts, and I've seen a lot of quiet ones. And then I've seen hybrids like me.
Yeah. The fun, happy shit talkers.
Yeah, that's me. That's me for sure. And, but those principles have always stuck with me, is that my strength isn't about how much I can yell and enforce. Now, there's times that we have to. There's times I believe in law and order. I believe that there's a hierarchy. I believe in that for a reason. And I think that's getting taken away in jiu-jitsu, and that's something that I want to bring back. But I learned a lot from that. So art imitates life. You know, this jiu-jitsu art imitates life. I learned to submit, not just physically, but learn to submit mentally. And it really helped me. Because think about it like this, Matt. If I put you in an arm bar, right? Right now, if you don't tap, what's going to happen?
My arm's going to break.
Your arm's going to break. And yeah, you can get back to it and you'll heal. But what is the submission? When we tap, what are we doing?
We're admitting you got me.
We're admitting you got me. Not only are we admitting that, and we don't want to go to the point of the threshold of pain, but yet I get an opportunity to learn from that submission. I get an opportunity without having irreparable harm to learn and grow. And you're giving me that opportunity to do that. Everybody that tapped me, I've thanked them. I have thanked them, you know. Man, I got caught in this crazy buggy choke. Never been in a buggy choke, right? And I was like, yo, thanks, man. And he looked at me, purple belt. He was super flexible, long like you. And I was like, did this fool...
You're like, oh, he didn't.
This motherfucker just put his leg over my back and finished it. And I was like, good job, you know? And he was like, you not mad? I was like, no, thank you. I haven't rolled with anybody like you.
Right.
I haven't rolled with anybody like you, right? And I'm so thankful for it. I'm thankful for the education. I'm thankful that you trust to roll with me, right? I'm so thankful for it. And, art imitates life. Sometimes in life, we're dead to rights. We're dead to rights, and we're still trying to fight through it. I remember the time I rolled with you, and man, you were a white belt.
Oh, God.
And I had you dead to rights, and you're still fighting.
Yep.
You're grunting and you're tense, and I'm like, bro, just tap. You know?
Yep.
And we do that in life. Sometimes we put ourselves in advantageous positions that all we need to do is submit to God's will, and he'll let us out. And he'll lead us. He'll give us a path. So we will never be caught up in that ever again.
So how did you come to that? What was the thing? Was it a cascading series of events? Was it one big culmination of something that kind of got you to the point where you got to humble yourself and submit? Otherwise, you're going to keep finding yourself in this same cycle of anger, leaving jobs, losing jobs, hurting people. What changed in you that humbled you and made you submit?
Man, you know, that's funny you bring that question, because today is a very important day to me. Number one, today is my daughter's birthday. Isabel, she turns 11.
Oh my God, dude, she's 11.
She's 11, bro.
Wow,
bro. It's been like, dude, I seen a picture when she was 3 at Excel, and she was like yay big with Miko May, and like, bro, and to her, like 11 is crazy. But let me tell you what happened January 25th of 2020.
Okay.
I obviously, it was her birthday, but January 24th, I decided that I was going to check out. I was deciding it's over. No, I'm done. I'm in this whirlwind. I'm having relationship issues. I'm having money issues. I'm having this inner turmoil. Am I worth it? I'm at the arena. I'm a black belt now, right? So I'm putting on the mask, right? You guys are looking up to me. I got people looking up to me. I got all this other stuff, but I'm dying on the inside because I felt I wasn't worthy of being successful. That's why I didn't get to where I got to in my MMA career, because I was a piece of shit that did this, that, and the third, all the way up here. I never felt worthy of being enough. I never felt that I was enough, right? Even at black belt level. So I decided on my daughter's birthday, on her 6th birthday, that I was going to do it. So January 24th, I was at the arena. I trained. I was taking OxyContin and drinking beers, and everybody, you know, they didn't see me taking OxyContin. They just see me drinking beer, because sometimes we would drink beer and train. Right? Probably not the best training methodology. I would never teach that to my students, but whatever, right? So we're having fun, and I'm just like, you know what? All right, guys, see ya. You know, me being the jovial shit talker that I am. They're like, all right, Jay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Wearing that mask
Wearing
still.
the mask still. Close up the gym. Lock the door. I had a Scion. I had the Scion XB little box car. And if anybody's ever been to the arena and knows that area, there's a lot of homeless and transients because of whatever, right? And I just was like, I don't give a shit. You know, I rolled the windows down, left my keys in the car, and I walked over to the hotel that I had already reserved to do the do. I had bought alcohol. I had extra pills that I got from a guy up here, and I was like, it's going to be over. You know, I was like, I'm done. And I got to the room. It was roughly about 9:30, walked over, started drinking my alcohol, started popping a few more pills. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it. My kids are better off without me. My mother's better off without me. My now ex is better off without me. I'm just fake. I'm just putting on this mask. I'm tired of it. It's draining. It's draining. I need rest. And, yeah, man, I popped probably about 10 to 15 OxyContin that day. And man, I was like, all right, well, and I fell out. And it had to be about close to midnight on the 25th. So I was high as a kite, and I woke up. I thought I was on the other side. And I realized that I wasn't on the other side. And I must have blacked out. And I just remember the hotel, just this seedy hotel, table flipped over, bottles everywhere. And I realized, like, I'm not in hell, and I'm definitely not in heaven. I'm where I'm at. I'm mad. I'm like, your dumbass can't even kill yourself. I can make light of it now, right? But yeah. So
But I gotta imagine that when you come to somewhat,
and I was a mess. I was a mess, and I'm like crawling around, and it's about 6:30, 7 in the morning, roughly. My phone, I left my phone in the car, so nobody knew. I had the suicide note. I got up and I just started crying hysterically to the point where housekeeping, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. You know, I was like, I'm good. Just having a moment, you know, and I started cleaning up. I just started cleaning up. They were all plastic bottles. I had some cheap vodka, you know. I was broke, so I couldn't go out even with good vodka, right? So I couldn't even get, like, I don't even know what's good vodka anymore. But yeah, I had to get the old Private Select Red Top, you know. Just plastic bottles from Ralph's. I remember, bottom shelf, right? Bottom shelf, under shelf, right? Probably. And so I started cleaning up, and I was a freaking hot mess. And I started throwing the bottles, adjusted the table, put everything back, and I started walking back. But that day, it was a belt promotion at the arena, and my car was there. My car was still there. My keys were still in the car. My phone was still in the car. And if you've never been to the arena, there's windows, right?
Okay.
There's like these big windows so you can see through, right? And so Master Barrett's promoting somebody, and my boss, Mike Liera, he seen me, and he was like, he just had this look.
I'm like, what's up with you, dude?
What's up with you? I was wondering where you was at. And I was like, I gotta go. And he was like, go home. And I go home and I'm crying all the way. I'm crying all the way up to Oceanside. And I come in and my mom lives with me, and my ex was like, where you been? And I just had, I guess, this 1,000-yard stare, and they knew. But Isabel comes in, and I'm like, Daddy, I'm like, happy birthday, you know? And all of a sudden, I just snapped and did like a complete 180 and came to. And I know the story's long, but, and I sat and I was like, God, I need you. I need you. If any other time, I need you now. And that was the start. That was the start of my walk with God. Like fully. Nobody forced me to go to church. Nobody forced me. And to make a long story, fast forward. I had moved away and moved to San Diego and moved back. And I had went through a breakup and with this girl I was dating, and really messed me up. And I felt like, boom, I'm going back the same path. And so I was like, God, I need you. I need you right now. I need to right the wrongs, the things that I've done in my life. Lord, help me, please, Lord.
Yep.
And then I grabbed my phone, and then the devil gets in and was like, yeah, you need to get laid. Why don't you go on a date nap?
Yep.
So I go on the date nap, right? And I go on the date nap and get on it, and the first girl that comes up is one of the ex-girlfriends I hurt. So I'm like, match. And she matched, and I'm like, I need to talk to you. It's important. I don't want to date you. I just want to and we talked and we apologized, and I apologized to her. And she was like, well, let's go to church. And I was like, cool. You know, I don't think we were dating. We were just kind of talking and kind of keeping it slow. And I go date, and we finally go on a date, and she's like, you know what? I think you should go to that men's group at Coast City Church. I just feel like a miracle is going to happen when you go there. And I'm like, I'm not going with a bunch of dudes that's going to be crying and singing Kumbaya and carry the stick. And I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going. I'm not going to be one of them soft dudes that go there.
Yeah.
Who was the soft dude crying every Thursday night at 6:30? It was me. Big badass martial artist. And that was the start, man. And here I am today.
Man, and that's a good church. I know a few guys that go there. One of my good buddies, you might know him, Brian Mouche.
Yep, I know Brian.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yep, he's my guy too, man.
Yeah,
he used to go over to North Coast when I was over there, and him and I got to interact a lot, and we used to cycle together and stuff. He's a good dude. Good dude.
That's funny you bring him up, because that was the first person I did. You know how you do the connection cards when you go to church?
Yep.
Brian was the first guy that called me.
No better guy.
No better guy. Brian is, you know, I have a love for him. We may not talk every day, but Brian is a
there's a connection and friendship there that's natural, that it's like the ones long-term friendships where you don't have to talk every day.
No.
You can go months without talking, but you can pick up exactly where you left off. And you have that sense of like, I don't have to earn this friendship.
No.
I don't have to maintain this friendship. It just is. And he's a beautiful dude, man.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, awesome, man. That was the guy that called me. That was the guy that called me. I went to Fire Shop. I remember one Thursday, another Jamar meltdown moment. This one was like crazy. This was a crazy meltdown. This was like, and there's another guy, Steve Tankersley. I don't know if you know Steve Tankersley. He was a guy when I first got there, white guy, long beard, ZZ Top looking.
Oh yeah.
That's like my bearded guardian angel. But when I got there, I had like, man, this is white boy, man. I'm like this crazy looking white boy. But that's my guy. That's the guy that's been there every step of the way.
Yeah.
You know, and changed my life. And I started I don't know. I just started feeling compelled to speak the word of God and go on Instagram, and I've been doing it for about 3 years. And I try to do one, try to do it every couple days or so. But yeah, those guys helped me move towards the path of God, path of righteousness.
Yeah. So then the movement of from January 2020 to present was that you basically had to recognize and accept that it's time for you to tap. And since that time, was it hard at the beginning to recognize the continual tap, or did like you tap once, you're cool, I feel good, and then things started coming up and you're like, no, I'm gonna fight? Like what was it a process of undoing that wiring in you to constantly be in opposition, to constantly be fighting, to constantly be resisting? And was it a hard process to learn to just kind of flow with it and learn and recognize yourself and your mind and your heart of when, hey, I think I need to tap right now? What was that process like for you?
You know what? At first it was super complex because I was trying to find myself in so many different ways.
Okay.
And myself was right in front of me, and everything I needed was right in front of me. And I was trying all this self-help stuff. I'm on YouTube. I'm trying to hype myself up, but I realize I'm just masking it. I'm hype. I'm on YouTube, 15 minutes, I could do it. I could believe, yes. But then I'm back to my same self. And I'm like,
why isn't this working?
Why isn't this
working?
Why
aren't I getting fixed?
I'm changing. Look at me. It's like
so it's almost like you're
bartering.
You're like, I'm changing. But really you're like, I'm not changing. But like, maybe I'll fake it till I make it.
Yes, exactly. And I remember I was going through it, and shout out to Barrett Yoshida. Master Barrett he's not a man of few words, but when he loves you, he loves you. And I shared things with him, and he said, Jamar, just use your jiu-jitsu mind. And I was like,
you're like, son of a bitch.
I was like, really? And I started really thinking like that. And I know I've said this in class at Excel all the time. I said, you got to take inventory. Like, how would you beat you in a jiu-jitsu match? How would you beat you in a jiu-jitsu match? Would I, like at purple belt, like you're a purple belt, right? Like, I knew, and Michio helped me with this too. God, nothing but respect. In his nice way, he told me, you suck on your back. So I was like, I had to take that inventory in my mind and use my jiu-jitsu mind. Well, where would I attack? Where would I attack this guy if I wanted to beat him? And that really helped me. That really started helping me. Really attack the things that I needed to attack, which was my childhood, which was accepting God's love and realizing since I've repented to God and I've been baptized that I'm a new creation. I'm no longer the Jamar Coleman that was the drug user, the Jamar Coleman that was the alcoholic, the Jamar Coleman that was the womanizer. It's like in jiu-jitsu. You know how you feel like you suck, right? But if I told you, Matt, when did you start jiu-jitsu?
End of 2019.
Okay. So if 2019 Matt came in this studio and was like, you know what? I challenge you to a match.
Oh, I'd whoop his ass.
You'd whoop his ass.
Yeah.
You'd whoop his ass because you've grown.
Yeah.
You've grown so much since 2019. And I had to realize that I've grown so much that I'm no longer that little insecure man in 2005, 2006, 2007, that I'm this new creation. I am this badass that has slayed this dragon multiple times. I've realized that. And so I never try to go back to that. I don't have to go back to that.
Man.
So the growth is always there. The growth is there. It's just not to our liking. And in this society, we want, it's like in jiu-jitsu, right? You get these guys and they're like, and I seen it at Excel and I seen it at other gyms. Man, I just got a couple stripes, man. I should be here. I should be here. Well,
Like they have this perception of themselves that they should be at a greater level than they are actually representing.
yeah. And when they don't realize that Professor Michio is protecting you, just like God is protecting you. You're not ready for that blessing. You're not ready for that blessing because I haven't forged you to be ready for that blessing. I haven't trained you yet to be ready for that blessing. I want to give it to you, but I know if I give it to you right now, if I gave you a black belt right now, would you be able to handle it?
Heck no.
Hell, I've been a black belt 6 years. I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay. So it's the same thing in our walk with God, is that we ask for these grandiose blessings and God wants to give it to us. But God knows already that you're not ready for that blessing, that there's a chink in the armor.
There's holes in our game.
There's a holes in our game, just like in jiu-jitsu. That's that's why the patience, like my longest belt was purple. I was purple belt for 5 years. And I realized, and Michio showed me, because I used to think I was better than I was, until Michio showed me that I wasn't. In his nice, subtle way, never disrespectful.
Yeah. And he has a way of doing it not only for jiu-jitsu,
but for life.
Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't just grade your belt based on your skills. He's looking at you as a man and as a woman. He's like, are you growing? Yes, you got jiu-jitsu skills, but if you're still acting like a white belt in life, acting like a white belt with your kids, acting like a white belt with your wife, you're not ready yet.
Yeah. That's how I knew when I got my black belt from him that I arrived. I knew that there was growth because I knew the changing of the man, but that still was a depressing time for me.
Yeah.
When I got promoted, and I remember all you guys being there, I was like, all this love, and I still feel like this small. But he sees something in me, and that's why I'm going to keep pushing.
Was there a sense of shame when you got your black belt?
Yeah.
Why so?
I felt like it was imposter syndrome. I felt like I was an imposter. Because I shined in this scheme on this mat. But I was a white belt in life.
In all the other mats, it was...
Yeah, in the mats of life, I was a white belt. I might have been a kid's belt. Might be a gray belt, you know?
Yep.
So, and I was at one, and at that time, I don't think anybody knows, I had just attempted suicide probably about a month before I got promoted. And I was not bathing. I was barely bathing. I was 137 pounds when I got my black belt. I look at the pictures. I look super sick. And when I see it, you know, I just had enough energy. That black belt wasn't for me. It was for all the people that came and supported me. I had like 200-300 people there. I remember that night like it was yesterday, you know? And, but yeah, then I didn't feel enough either.
You worked so hard to finally get that thing, and then once you got it, you're like, shit, this wasn't it either.
This wasn't it. I felt, somebody asked me this, and they were like, well, I bet you feel like a badass because you're a black belt. I said, no, I feel vulnerable. Because I know that there's a whole nother world out there. This is the start of my journey. There really is the start of my journey, and that transitions into my life. Yeah, I have holes in my game. How do I fix these holes so nobody can come in? So the devil can't come in.
So then what are you doing for that work of your life jiu-jitsu, to find those holes, to expose those holes, to tighten up your game so that you have a fighting chance?
Yes.
So that you can fight back. What's a part of your practice and your discipline on that side of things?
I take a personal inventory of my life.
Okay. What things are you looking at?
I'm looking at recently, right? I just recently got married 6 months ago. Today is our 6-month anniversary.
Man, today's a big day.
Today's a big day.
That's awesome.
Today's a big day.
Well, I am even more grateful now that you chose today to come out.
But I take an inventory, and I call it truth serum. I look in the mirror, or I write it down. I journal every day. I pray every day. I try to stay in the Word of God every day. and I try to just do a personal inventory. What does Jamar need to work on? You know, lately, it was anger. I had some anger about my father relapsing, and I realized that I was taking it out on the wrong people. And I had to really catch myself and surround myself around fellow lions. And that has really helped me. Being purposeful in my ministry, that has helped me. You know, just being the best father that I can be. You know, from every aspect. Physically, try to not be a fat ass. And, you know, psychologically, you know, surrounding myself around the right people. You know, and doing the things I love. You know, teaching is something I love.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trainers, but there's not a lot of teachers anymore in this jiu-jitsu game.
Yes.
There really isn't.
I think it's part of the reason why we've seen jiu-jitsu go the way we have, especially over the last, 5 to 10 years, is a lot of coaches, not a lot of teachers.
No. And I don't know if a lot of people can handle teachers in this climate.
Yeah, you got to. It's for the casual hobbyist, they want to be coached, they want technique, and they want to go. But the people that want to grow, they need a teacher. They need a Michio. They need guys that are like him, who are willing to take the time, invest the time, nerd out on jiu-jitsu, and walk them through that process. Like that's a rare, like you said, that's a rare type of person. Like I know you're the same way whenever you would teach classes, you exude that same aura and passion and joy of teaching. That's very similar to Michio.
Yeah.
You can tell that when Michio's there at the gym and he's teaching a class and he's showing technique, he would rather be no other place than right there in that moment with those people. And you have that same type of mentality that like, oh, there's no place I'd rather be than right here, right now, nerding out about jiu-jitsu and doing this.
That's where I got it from. You know, I've been around some great practitioners. I've been around some great guys, some high level, world class guys. But I've always loved the way that Michio teaches. When he's on and he's ready to teach, I'm like, I'm there. I don't care if it's a grip break, right? It could turn into a Harvard TED Talks. You know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah. The guy is phenomenal. The guy is great, and professor is great. And I am so from a distance rooting for Excel.
Yeah.
You know, and I just really learned a lot from him, just how to carry yourself as a man, but yet still be mighty. Because with Michio, there's that you just know. You just know. You don't have to hide aside and everything.
Yep.
You just know that
there's something. There's a switch in that guy.
There's a switch in that guy, and I've experienced the switch more than any of you guys. And I used to profess this all the time. I said, guys, when Michio had black hair, I'm telling you, me and Ray and Bubba would be like,
I don't want it. No, you're up.
It was me too, because like me and him were like in the same size and structure. And, oh my God. And some of the other guys that I'm forgetting names, but Ray and Bubba, we can vouch.
Yeah.
I miss them so much because we used to just beat the crap out of each other, and then Michio would come and beat the crap out of us, and I'm like, all right, cool.
So then, what advice would you give me or anyone else who's listening to this of how we can honestly take an inventory? Like, because I was talking with a buddy of mine last night about this, that we as men are experts at gaslighting ourselves. Not only that, we're experts at lying to ourselves that we're better than we are or worse than we are. There's usually no in between.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So what advice would you give for me to be able to honestly assess and take inventory of self? Should I start in heart? Should I start in mind? Start in spirit? Where would you suggest I start with the inventory?
Yeah, I think we have to. I mean, we're all superficial here. Okay. We all have. For me, what works for me, I've always been a runner. I've been an avid runner for years. I always try to make small momentum, before I
Okay.
start deep diving,
Okay.
There, like last year we were just talking before this interview about how health, right? And I had some, I don't know if you want to call laziness health. Yeah, whatever. Like I was kind of like, this wasn't an active year. 2024 was not an active jiu-jitsu year for me. With transitioning to another gym, moving to Riverside, getting married, just a myriad of things, right?
Yep.
And sometimes we just gotta look in the mirror. Sometimes it's just looking in the mirror and being. For me, it was like, okay, I need to work on my physical being. Well,
Okay.
first I need to ask God to help me. God has always been the focal point. And then I start doing inventory. I start looking at my body. Maybe I start looking at my accomplishments. I start setting goals. I have some financial goals, and I'm like, okay, what has kept me from reaching this goal in 2024? Okay, it's because of this, this, and this. Okay, let's start working on this. And I start surrounding myself around people to help me with my goals. Mentorship. Nobody. I think with men, I think sometimes we look for like perfection, like we got this guru, right? And that's not really how the world works. But I have a pack of gurus. Maybe one guru knows how to help me financially, and the other one knows how to help me get back in the gym. Maybe the other guru knows how to help me how to deal with my anger. Maybe the other guru knows how to help me how to be a loving husband. So I've surrounded myself with people that I can be honest with. And that has helped me with my inventory. That has really helped me move forward in my life. I tried to be the lone wolf. We were talking about masculinity, right? And what do we see? The Rambos and the Chuck Norris and the Delta Force movies, whatever, all that. Charles Bronson. I know I'm showing my age now. But, the hero. The hero's stoic, silent, strong.
Yep.
Right? And
Usually by himself.
by himself, that's not always.
Or he's the one leading the pack.
He's always leading the pack.
Yeah.
That's not always how it works. Community. Community you can trust. That's big. It's big. It's not that I'm going to cry to every man that I see at Starbucks. Hey, how you doing? Oh, my daddy don't love me. Oh my God. No,
Although I would love to see that. That would freak some people out.
it probably would. Yeah. They're just like, okay.
Okay, I just want my latte.
I just want my latte. That's all I came for. So that inventory has really helped me. Just really getting closer in the Word of God. Because God's Word has never lied to us. It's that I've relied on the word of man, which is conditional, right? These are transactional relationships, right? Like even you and I, like though we have love for one another, if I do something completely out of left field, that may change our relationship.
Yep.
Totally, right? Like, yeah, I respect Professor on the mat, but as a man, he's a dick, right? Or something like that, or he's an a-hole because he, did whatever.
Right.
But I realized that with the relationship of God is that God has never punished me. It is that I've punished me because I went my own way.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh, there's something there. Okay, so, we're getting into this now. Well, more so. So if you're the one that's punishing yourself, where's God in that? Where is he in that? And what is he doing? While you're over here whipping yourself, feeling bad about yourself, calling yourself a piece of shit, what is he doing in those moments? Is he near? Is he far? Is he calling to you? Is he just standing by patiently waiting for you to wear yourself out? Where is he in those situations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think God is always near. I think God's hands are always out. It's just that our hands are always restricted because we are
too busy beating ourselves.
We're too busy beating ourselves, and we're too busy extending our hands out to the world looking for acceptance. That'll never be fulfilling. That'll never fully fulfill our needs and wants in this life. It wasn't God that put joint to my mouth. It wasn't God that, it wasn't of God that me drinking the bottle, you know, God tells us what in Proverbs 3:5-6 is like, trust in the Lord with all your heart and not lean on your understanding. For he'll lead your path straight. I was trusting my sinner conditional mind, that can change. It can go up and down like NASDAQ, like the stock market, right?
Yep.
But God has always been there. He's been steady. He's been a steady investment. No matter where I go, I'm always rising. It's almost like investing in mutual funds. You can't really lose and go in mutual funds. It's steady.
Yeah.
Right? It's me nerding out financially, right? But I tried to do all this volatile stuff, almost like a crypto of...
Yeah. Life crypto.
Life crypto, right? Oh, I'm up.
And it crashed.
Crash. I'm up. And then I crash, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Instead of humbling myself. And I submitted to God. It's like we went back and we talked about. The enemy, the devil had me in an armbar, dead to rights. And I'm still trying to fight him. Instead of just going,
yeah, you got me.
You got me. God help me learn from this.
And what do you think that fear of admission, the fear of admitting that you're not hot shit, like that's a hard one. Because I love that verse from Proverbs, because the other part at the end of it is basically he's inviting us like, hey, rely on me or trust me, rely on me, become intimate with me.
Right.
That's not a traditional masculine attribute.
No.
Intimacy, honesty, humility, submission.
Yeah.
But those are the things that I think fuel that inventory and help us get to those places, those goals, those dreams that we hope for. Because if we're out there doing it lone wolf style, we're out there doing it, Rambo style, at some point we're going to catch a bullet, because it's just us.
It's just us.
And we need that community. We need that honesty. We need that trust. What made you willing, other than, like, with all the things that we've spoken about, what made you willing to finally be intimately known? And with who?
Yeah, man, a great question. Number one, to make this really simple at the beginning, is that I tried it my way. I was honest enough to go and be like, I've tried it my way. I've tried to mask the pain. I've tried to mask it in so many ways.
Yep.
Even with jiu-jitsu. And here I am. It's like the old adage. I love this quote: everywhere you go, there you are.
Yep.
So I just finally started facing it. And I knew I had intimacy issues. And how I interacted with my children, how I interact now with my wife, that's been a challenge. My growing up, my form of, intimacy was bang. That was what I was told. That was a rite of passage to manhood. When I joined the Navy, my dad wanted to give me a prostitute because you're going to be away for a while. Like, I'm only going to be gone 8 weeks. And I don't know if that's a man. Like, no, thank you. Okay. Like, but that was, God helped me reform this identity as a man. I feel like I became a better jiu-jitsu teacher after giving myself to Christ. Was I technically good already? Yes. Did I have technical knowledge? But now adding the intimacy with it has helped me be a better teacher. Understanding that how you teach with people and how, is different. Like with you, I could be like, Matt, get your shit together.
Yeah.
Let's go, bro.
Yep. But you talk to someone else like that,
talk to somebody else,
it could
or like
shut them down.
Yeah, like for instance, at Excel, like Carmen. Like Carmen, I used to be like, "You're doing good," but because she would get hard on herself, and I could see it.
Yeah.
So it's
so you don't want to add to that.
It's a different type of intimacy.
Yep. Different kind of love, different kind of tone.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I would be like, "Hey, Carmen, you're doing good. It's new.
Yep.
It's new."
Yep.
It's just like when Michio said, "When did you learn this?" You know how he does that?
Yeah.
And I was like, "I just learned it today." Okay. Now you got to do it 10,000 more times, like he always says.
Yep.
And I was like, "That's an intimacy.
Yeah.
That's intimacy." You know how he coached me. You know, sometimes, man.
Sometimes it's an ass whooping. Sometimes it's a hug.
Dude, there's a side of Michio, especially in that competitive mode. He just pushes it. I see how he is with the kids, but there's an intimacy with the kids.
There's a caring.
There's a caring.
And there's a love there.
There's a love there. There's a love with, you know, some of the students that I've seen. It's just different. And being able to be confident in yourself, to be intimate, to be vulnerable. With my wife, man, you make me cry. But like, she was exactly what I needed. This hard ass, shit talking, black belt, ass kicker, whatever you want to call it, right? And here she is with these big old beautiful eyes, just soft, and she's just like
sweet and soft spoken. Yep.
And I was like, yeah, she's helped me become more intimate. You know, just as intimate as having a conversation.
Yep. Man. So then maybe the place to start is to be willing to be intimate with self and learn to love self.
Yes. We have to. It's already a world out here that's going to discredit us. We're not going to be liked by everybody. As much as we have a relationship, I know there's probably somebody at Excel that's like, you know what, I can't stand Professor Jamar. But I have to be confident with self. I can't worry about satisfying everybody. I can focus on being the best person I can be. I can be honest with myself, knowing that I've given 100% when I teach. That is where God has sent me. I'm so thankful that God did not have me move forward in MMA, because I would have never gave him the glory. I would have gave myself the glory.
You would have entrenched yourself deeper into that persona of hard ass, you know, ball buster, angry man. Like you wouldn't have been able to get out of that.
Yes.
That persona that's been ingrained over the years.
Yes. But I like this persona. I like this guy. I like the guy that can be the teacher and can turn on the switch. I tell guys in Riverside it's different. It's funny because I'm up there, new community. And, you know, I go into a gym and I'm teaching up there, and they see me in this nice monkey suit or whatever you want to call it. And they see me as nice, and I'm teaching, and then, okay, we're going to roll. Oh, you're still strong. Yeah, strength is, like I said, it's not always the ability to enforce might. It's the ability to yield, to open yourself up. And if it wasn't for that inventory, I realized I didn't have to be the tough guy. I didn't have to be the tough guy. I didn't have to be the enforcer. I felt like that at Excel sometimes. I felt like I had to be the enforcer. Especially at the time when Professor was having his health issues, you know.
Right.
I was like, I gotta stand up. I gotta be here.
Like you took it on yourself to maintain the standard.
I was like, I want to maintain the standard, and I know that there was like a disconnect with that, but I wanted to because I respected him, and I respect him so much, and I didn't, and they don't understand the sacrifices that he did for me, the things that you know he let me train there for free. He, you know, he had helped me on the back end.
Yep. There's lots of things that he did that nobody
knows. That's true. Yep. And I got to give him credit for that. Even though we have our differences, I have to give him credit for that. And I'm so thankful for my time with him. I really am. I sometimes I wish I could just go in there and talk to him again. And I'm praying that God lets me do that, you know, and we'll get back to that.
Yeah. 100%. So we should start with figuring out and learning how to love the dude in the mirror staring back at us.
Mm-hmm.
We can start there. We can start doing that work. We can start doing that training. That's going to open up to wife, kids, friends, community, work. Because if we're constantly looking at the guy in the mirror and thinking that he's a piece of shit, and if we got people on the outside repeating that, what's the point?
Yeah.
Are we ever going to be able to be loving?
Yeah.
How can love come out of a piece of shit?
No.
How can patience come out of a person like that? How can intimacy and peace and calm and a willingness to hug a kid until they let go?
Yeah.
Those things aren't going to exist if inside of us we're trying to constantly mask and fight that lie that we don't deserve to give this and we don't deserve to receive it.
Right. It's it's an amazing journey, but we got to make the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And the steps start with us. Like I think a lot of people feel like, oh, well, if I go to jiu-jitsu, it'll make me feel good. I don't want temporary. I got tired of temporary because I got tired of having the high. Like, man, there's times I've rolled with y'all, man, at black belt and felt like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought rolling, and this was a wake-up call for me, because I used to roll and I felt better after. And then I started rolling and I didn't feel good after. And I was like, okay, so this is something I loved.
And now that's being taken away from you.
And
now.
that scared me.
Yeah.
That scared me to death.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
Not this.
Not this. Now,
anything else but this.
Now, if this goes, I'm definitely.
I got nothing.
I'm gonna
Who
kill,
am I?
Yeah, and that's where I was at in 2020. I was like, I'm just going through the motions, you know. And I was like, yeah, this isn't it. And I had to gain my love back for jiu-jitsu, not as being the ass kicker, not as being the enforcer, but yet being the teacher. The teacher's been inside me, but I didn't think I was enough to be the teacher.
Yeah.
I didn't, and that's where I had to do my deep work. That's exactly when I started doing my deep work. It's funny, like, I have a friend of mine, Brennan. He's at Coast City too. And this guy, God, if you've seen him, I was like scared of him. I was teaching at CSG, and he just gave me this death stare, and he's just
at the gym.
Yeah, I'm teaching. I remember I was going over Delahaven, and I'm like, what the fuck is up with this dude? This dude looks like he's gonna fucking kill me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I'm like, and he comes up, and he's like super quiet, and he's like super big, dude, and he's like, I really like your instruction. I was like,
oh God.
I was like, dude, I thought I was gonna have to fuck you up.
Yep.
You know? And we just developed this bond. But he loved me as a teacher, not as an ass kicker. He said, I see it, but I love you as a teacher. And I was just kind of rambling, but I'm so thankful that I did that inventory, because I would have missed out on this relationship. Because if I was the enforcer, Jamar, I would have been like, well,
you would have come up confrontational.
Yeah, I would have came up confrontational to him.
Yep.
And that's how I knew I was growing.
Yeah.
As a teacher. Not as a competitor instructor. There's guys that teach that are competitors.
Yep.
There's guys that teach at many gyms, you know, but they don't have any intimacy. It's just, okay, I'm going over guard. Yeah. Okay, we're going to roll. Have a good day.
They're getting through the class.
They're just getting through the class.
Yeah.
Whether for their own personal gain or, you know, they're just there. So it's a big difference. I relish teaching. I love it.
Yep. Because you genuinely care about the people that are sitting in front of you.
I do.
You don't want them to just have technique. You want them to grow.
Yes.
That's the desire you have. It's like, hey, I don't care. And that's the thing that I've appreciated whenever you teach, and just even this conversation is it's not about here's the technique. It's you can be teaching dog shit technique, but if that person cares, you're gonna listen.
Yep.
You're gonna listen. You're gonna get something out of that interaction.
Yeah.
But when you got the information as well, that just exponentially makes that teaching and that time so much greater.
Yeah, for sure.
Man. Professor Jamar, thank you. Not only for allowing yourself to be intimately known in this conversation, but for being willing to share those lessons, share the struggle, give starting points and current of, being honest with self, intimate with self, knowing self. That's scary work to do.
Yes.
It is scary work to do, because as men, typically our fear response is anger.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
And every time I look around and the thing that I've been focused on for myself is if I'm getting, and there's different levels of anger.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lowest, one of the lowest barriers is somewhere along the lines of being critical. Mm-hmm. is low energy anger. Mm-hmm. And I recognize that I do that a lot with my own kids. Mm-hmm. And I have to stop and say, okay, what am I afraid of right now? Why am I nitpicking my oldest kid for how he talks to random kids when he's playing VR?
Yeah.
Like, why am I nitpicking that? What am I afraid of? What? And so you have to be willing to ask yourself those questions and dig and not be afraid of the things that you uncover. Because I think a lot of times the thing that we're afraid of uncovering is that we're going to uncover something that is not lovable. Mm-hmm. And so don't dig, don't explore, don't light up those dark corners, because something might get exposed that on a deep spiritual level, that there's going to be something exposed that says, I can love everything but that. And I think that we're terrified that that's what we're going to experience, even though we know we're not. What if?
What if?
What if? So, man, thank you for the reminder that the work is worth it. The digging is worth it. And that whatever we find, whatever gets dug up, it's already loved.
Yes. And if I could say this, to add on to that, is that as I gave my life to Christ, I realized that my life was about service. And God had already given me this gift of teaching. I was teaching at Blue Belt, at a pretty good level. And I realized something is that I owe it to myself to dig deep and to do that inventory, because this life is not to fulfill my flesh. This life is to serve God, and to serve God in the special way that he has for me. So I would be doing a great injustice if I didn't do the deep work, because I have something to offer you, just like your deep work has something to offer me. It's about community. More than anything, it's not about loving myself. It's no longer about how many medals I can get. It's no longer about I can kick your ass. It's more about me going in that ass kicking, because I like ass kicking. Is that how can I help you? How can I help you protect your family? How can I help you grow as a man? How can I help you? Because the belt's just a belt. I see maturity in you. From white belt when you were spazzing, drinking your little hippie coffee on the sideline, to now as a purple belt.
Yeah.
I see the man. I see the growth. Maybe we don't hang out outside of the gym, but I see it. And I see it for a lot of people. But we can't hold all that. We can't hold. We're not designed to just hold all this talent and hold all these skills and not help our fellow man and woman. And we have to quit comparing ourselves and being like, well, Matt's got a studio and I don't have a studio. Well, I'm not shit because I don't have a studio. But God gave you these skills for a reason. He gave you this platform for a reason. And God has given me a different platform for a reason, because we are skilled in these platforms. And man, God is good, man.
Yeah.
God has did a complete 180 in my life.
I love that.
Man, I'm still working. I'm still growing. this sword that I'm sharpening, that I'm still sharpening, is not for me to slay. It's for me to pass on, and for my students and for the people that follow me to use these tools to slay their dragons in their lives.
I think that's a beautiful beautiful thing to recognize. Is before you used to swing that sword to protect yourself, now you're using that sword to train people for them to protect themselves.
Yes.
Man, you're no longer fighting because you got something to prove.
No.
You're fighting now because you want to help people.
I got an army.
Ooh.
I have an army. I didn't realize I had an army until recently. I didn't realize when I was doing my videos how much of an army, how much of an influence I have. If God has me to influence one person or 1,000, then I'm doing my job.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful stuff, Professor.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it, man.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. I appreciate it.